actual is going on with Duet Night Abyss right now? Well, the doomposting has gotten out of control. Some valid criticisms and some iPad babies who've been shouting baseless accusations with zero evidence to provide. This video isn't to dismiss the criticism, it's to call out the bullshit. Rex put it very well. Hating is the meta of discussion online.
If you look anywhere online, people are just kind of hating everything. That's the meta right now. The meta is to be a hater. If you are a hater, people are like, damn, this guy's so real. I prefer this authenticity. If you look anywhere online, it's all rage bait, it's all hate, it's all people spewing shit at each other.
I'm no stranger to criticism, and in my opinion, toxic positivity is way more dangerous for a game's health than even the worst Doompost. I know the feeling of putting out a critique, no matter how harsh, and then getting a stampede by a bunch of Stockholm Syndrome toxic positivity sheep who think anything negative about their game equals someone trying to kill it. This is going to be my response, calling out the bullshit and sticking to the evidence of what needs to be fixed. I think Gotcha Smack put it perfectly when my editor asked him about it.
What do you think of this massive hate wave this game's been getting? I went over it before. I think I'm not gonna lie to you. I think it's just, this is the definition of how marketing to the wrong demographic could turn out. I think that's literally it. It's like you are putting a product in front of people that aren't for that product.
This started out with it being a gacha, and all of its marketing and publicity was telling people that it was part of the genre and scene. And then suddenly they decided to take a 180 spin around, removing all of that and pivoting to a different game style. Now this has put it in an unfortunate situation where there is this big disconnect with a large portion of its initial player base because of that first push. Now, the announcement of removing its gacha mechanics was a benefit to the game and 100% the correct move. Put the game on the map, but unfortunately it was still a product that needed to be pushed out, and the publisher and shareholders weren't going to give them much more time before the Reaper comes knocking. So, in those first few months, they needed to completely restructure the game from the ground up, coding entirely new systems, reworking the whole game economy, while also creating new cosmetics that are good enough for people to whip out their Fushu credit cards. All the while still creating new content and squashing as many bugs as they can to polish the game up. I'm not here to white knight the devs. The game development is hard excuse falls deaf on my ears as well. But I'm also here to say that they earned a bunch of goodwill from me because they were willing to throw their massive nutsack on the table and announce the move of completely removing all gacha because of their willingness to choose what is best for the game compared to what is best for their wallets. That's the reason I've been more willing to give some extra grace when it comes to some issues, especially when they've worked so hard to address the most egregious bugs first. Moving ahead through 1.0, I could already tell there was going to be a storm. Many players were already doomposting the patch for even the smallest points, many of which were exaggerations or outright false. This will be a pattern. Even if everything launched without a hitch, there would still be people who were looking for any external reason to discard the game, apart from just admitting that it wasn't for them, because then they would be missing out. We seriously had people say they should bring back the gacha and FOMO in the dailies. And another one which I personally agree with, being that they need to figure out if they want to go with the loading screen grind simulator or the typical grind game style. This of course requires a lot of player data to determine what path they want to take. It's not a situation where there's a right way or a wrong way, they just need to make it the fun way for the player base. So when 1.1 was announced, people's expectations started building, and while most of the changes were definitely ones that would have improved the game, like the character and weapon bouncing, which would be a lot further away than just in the first patch. And don't get me wrong, I do know that a lot of people just wanted a statement on it, and I agree that it would be the best option. But we also know that the crunch is so bad that they're struggling to put out a blog post, let alone a roadmap. But when just a subsection of those expectations going in weren't met, there was a sudden wave of people screaming about how it was a nothing patch, because they didn't get their 6'7" goth mommy and a 24-pack of variety monster underneath the Christmas tree, completely ignoring all of the other additions, changes, fixes, improvements, QOL, I can keep going. So that sets the stage for 1.1. It was going to be a disaster whether or not everything went right. There were too many people looking for one reason, any reason, to make their exit and be as loud as possible about it. The anticipated Steam launch was postponed and the maintenance was extended 3 hours past its original endpoint. It sucked. I was there. Post-launch, there were some issues that become immediately apparent between the optimization issues, theater being noticeably more difficult than before, and the most well-known clue farm spot being patched out due to the elevator area causing spawn issues. Now, with bugs being a known factor already with the increased theater difficulty, there being plenty of other lesser-known clue farms that actually wound up being better than the popular spot. Matter of fact, I'm doing it right now. And with their previous performance in patching up the game quickly in the launch period, obviously people took up the time to properly analyze the issues and see what the fixes bring, and of course that didn't happen at all. The discussion about the update instantly flooded, with the most negative responses being the loudest. It was so bad in that 24-hour period that if you said anything even neutral about the update, you'd be slammed with toxicity. Even some content creators got downvoted for simply calling out the bullshit misinfo. Maybe even this one. Not even mentioning that a large portion of these posts were filled with the most blatant misinformation that you could only agree with if you either didn't read the post or didn't play the game. There was an actual post with hundreds of upvotes on Reddit that definitively stated the ability to obtain secret letter clues was removed outside of dailies and events. Not only that, changes and additions were being misconstrued as a conspiratorial chain to squeeze the players dry out of more money. The new wedges, which are broken, were difficult to grind because they are broken. And somehow, that combined with the unintentional difficulty spike of the theater led to them speculating that the new wedge material that was added because whales were begging for the ability to buy wedges, like they do for weapons and characters, was actually designed to push players to buy it to skip the grind because they removed one clue farming spot, and they absolutely needed it to clear for Fushu, completely ignoring the fact that the grindiest of the wedges needed 0 clues to farm, and that you didn't even need any of the new wedges to clear the theater, even with the bugged difficulty from before. So that's the quality of discussion that we're dealing with right here. Again, there was actual criticism mixed into the outrage, but it's so very obvious that a large group of these self-reporting gacha addicts weren't looking to be reasonable and just wanted to get rid of this game so they can have more time to pick up their 7th gacha. It certainly didn't help when there were also content creators who took the opportunity to not actually engage with the content at all and decided to take a browse on Reddit for their opinions. Said CCs have also stated that Reddit is garbage. So I can't really understand the choice to believe it now, apart from justifying their distaste of the game community as a whole after they got called out for their questionable takes on the meta. Also, how are you all feeling with those bricked I2 psyches? And conveniently after that day, when the theater bug got fixed and people realized that there were much better clue farms and that maybe, just maybe, things might not be so bad, all of a sudden, the Doomposties disappear. But do they come back and go, oh, my bad, that was a little bit of an overreaction? Of course not, because they weren't here to interact in good faith to begin with. So where do we go from here? Obviously, we're seeing a lot of community overlap while trying to find the audience across gacha fatigue refugees and those looking for a grindy anime style game. Speaking of, a lot of people compare this game to Warframe, and for good reason, since they lifted a lot of the game's design from it, but it actually has more similarities with the open world gacha style, ranging from character progression, the dupe system, how the story and open world function, and of course, the annoying mascot. Which makes sense because that was their intention before they shifted gears. Now, Pan Studios has basically picked Ultra Nightmare difficulty when developing their game at the last second. They're set with the task of finding the game's identity and finding an audience that doesn't quite exist yet, all the while still putting out a commercial product, which means they not only have to figure out what direction the players want the game to go in, but who the players of the game even are. Obviously, I still have a lot of faith in Pan Studios and Duet Night Abyss. They've already done more than most are willing to do with their product, so I'm willing to push through some of the rough patches, especially when compared to the previous title I was covering, which would have had similar potential if they were willing to make that leap. This is under the qualifier that they actually do need to put out. While my patience has been bought, it isn't infinite. Which isn't to say that I'll run out soon, but it is to say that I'm not going to sit in a game if I don't find it fun. just because I'm high on hopium. Now, thankfully, I'm still having a great time with it, and even if I do ever wind up taking a break at some point, I'll have the peace of mind knowing that I'll have plenty more to do when I come back. What do you think? Do you agree? Now, that's all I have for this video today. If you are enjoying my coverage of Duet Night Abyss, be sure to subscribe to the channel, and as always, I will see you all next time.